Let's talk about Memphis and the Pac-12. And this is a big story. We've talked about it a lot on the show. We had Memphis Athletic Director Ed Scott on the show. If you missed it, get into our YouTube archives. The interview in its entirety is in the archive, where Ed Scott talked about why Memphis didn't accept the original offer from the Pac-12. And a lot of it was the logistics and the human toll it takes traveling your badminton team to Corvallis, Oregon, right? So we all know that's an issue. Well, there was a big development today in the AAC, one that I think a lot of people may be letting go under the radar, and that is this tweet right here from Ross Dellinger. American Conference ADs unanimously approved a performance rev share model for basketball tournament units. Schools get all units values earned in a particular year before the unit revenues are distributed to the league in subsequent years. So what that means is if you're playing high-level basketball and if you're playing high-level football, you no longer have to wait for the distribution that you've earned. You get that ahead of time while the others have to wait for the, remainder of those payouts, if you will. This is a big deal. This means that not only are you being rewarded for performance, but you are being rewarded for performance as you perform. So when you go to the NCAA tournament, I don't know, like say Memphis did this year, they're getting that money right away up front to pay bills that are due right now. And those tournament shares, I'd remind you, are spread out over 6 years. So this is a significant uptick. And Jake, this feels like a big deal for the AAC and for the Pac-12.
Absolutely, and I think the money side of this conversation is crucial. I mean, you look at a school like Memphis, who clearly has aspirations of at some point getting into a power conference or taking a step up, or whatever you want to describe that as, and you start to understand that if they can make more money, they're obviously going to be in a better place. And I do think that this ACC settlement several weeks ago now was kind of the impetus of this. Schools like Memphis that are in their position where they're performing at the top of their conference, they want to leverage that. They want to get paid, and I don't blame them for that. However, I do think that there are several different ways to go about it, and I think that's the fascinating part of the conversation. Like, we're all fixated on, performance-based revenue sharing, but I think within that, there is the, hey, are you going to sue your conference and cause a big fuss, or are you going to work with the member institutions in the conference to get done what you want to get done? And I think, Memphis and the schools in the AAC deserve a lot of credit for passing something that is great for some and not as great for others, and doing it without threatening to go to court and doing it without getting the governor involved. And I think that absolutely matters. So yeah, I mean, I think that this revenue sharing situation is great for the AAC. I also think that it is a model of what you can do inside of a conference when you want to negotiate how money is distributed, or you want to change things. And I also think, again, as Dr. Scott told us, like, Memphis and others at their level are looking to perform at the highest level. And part of that is getting more money in at a faster, quicker, more efficiently. And so I love this for them. I think for the American, this is everything you need it to be. And I think, Tim Pernetti as a commissioner is doing a great job, and you couldn't really ask for much better out of them.
Yeah, I think this is a big deal. I think it is exactly what the AAC needed. I was talking to an industry source today after the story came out, like, hey, what's the impact of this? And again, the same question. What is the real advantage for Memphis in going to the Pac-12? That now, I think, is the preeminent obstacle that the Pac-12 is going to have to overcome. What is it that the Pac-12 can offer that now Memphis isn't getting in the AAC? Because they're getting more money, and it does not appear, here we sit on April 2nd, it does not appear that the Pac-12 is going to get some deal that's exponentially greater in a financial capacity for Memphis. And even if it is just the travel part of this, again, I would tell you in Memphis's case, Memphis traveling its soccer team to Spokane or to Corvallis, I mean, that's a tough proposition. If you are Penny Hardaway, do you want to travel your team to Gonzaga for a weekend that includes, Washington State and Oregon State on a week-long trip.
Gonzaga.
I don't necessarily believe that's what's best for the student athlete. I don't believe in any way, shape, or form it's what's best for the bottom line or the bank account. It just doesn't math in my mind that the Pac-12 has exponentially more to offer in this overwhelming capacity, where it would be better for Memphis to leave the AAC and go to the Pac-12. Listen, I get it if you're Colorado State or if you're Fresno State, or is it really that different if you're Fresno State to go to Spokane versus going to Las Vegas to play UNLV? It's not a heck of a lot different. If you're flying from Memphis, if you're flying from Central Florida, if you're flying from New Orleans, let's say, and you're Tulane, that's a hell of a difference between, I don't know, going to Memphis. If you're Tulane, think about it this way. You're in New Orleans, and right now your trips are really centralized, regional-based travel. Do you want to change that for not a lot of extra money and now start going to these places that are significantly further away from you, that require your student athletes to be on the road for a much longer period of time, which stresses them out emotionally, which makes it much more difficult to excel academically? Yeah, I'm going to say that's a lot to consider at an institution like Memphis or Tulane. As Ed Scott said on the show, they take academics very seriously.
Yeah, and I think the travel piece is it is the best example of why money matters. I mean, I just think that, yesterday on the show, we all were talking about Calford going back to the Pac-12 and, that whole situation. Like, there are a million different situations to look at, but the reality is the lower down the totem pole you go, the more cost and money absolutely matters. So to me, I just think that the performance-based revenue sharing, proposition is a good one. And I think it definitely pushes forward, like, hey, obviously if you win, you're going to get rewarded, but if you lose, you're going to be penalized. And I think that's the other side of this coin that I don't feel like is getting talked about a lot. If you don't win, if you don't go to the tournament, if you're not getting college football playoff shares, if you're not excelling in athletics, you're losing in a variety of different ways. Not only are you not getting the shares as fast as a school who is winning, but obviously we know, and we've seen a million different examples of, hey, if you're winning, you're going to have more success in NIL. You're going to have more success in the portal. You're going to have more sway and ability to go out and get that high school kid across the country that, you really need to kind of finish off your defense or your offense or whatever. Like losing in college athletics right now is more of a death knell than it's ever been. Like being mediocre, not being relevant, not taking it seriously is more of a death knell now than it's ever really been. And I think that this is just another notch in the belt, if you will, another block on the pile of, hey, we need to be winning, Joey McGuire. We need to be winning, Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
Like, we need to go out. We need to win ball games.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal, and I would point to a Twitter string today. Let me get this banner off the screen for you. This is my Twitter today, where I said Memphis must be thrilled, and I tagged Dr. Ed Scott, the athletic director at Memphis, not thinking he would see it or reply. And what do you know? He replied, and he said, yeah, we are thrilled.
Via social media.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Man, when you look at the fact that Memphis is excited about the new revenue model in the AAC, and you look at who he's currently in business with, and we put this graphic up from the Pac-12 on a regular basis, right? Like, this is coming in July 2026. Okay. Basketball, certainly Gonzaga's a nice ad. San Diego State, good basketball program. Utah State, basketball program. But look at the American. Like, if you look at the American and you look at the members in this conference, right? You say to yourself, Birmingham, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, good basketball program. Memphis, good basketball program. North Carolina, Charlotte, good basketball program. You look up and down this list at Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, you have a lot of good fellow members in that conference and a lot of regional travel. I don't think it makes sense on any level for Memphis to evacuate that conference and go to the Pac-12.
No, and I also think when you and again, you should go back and listen to the interview in its entirety, but just having done the interview and remembering, Dr. Scott's, words that come to mind are like tenacity, energy, willingness to do what it takes, like that whole thing.
Yes.
Like, just remembering that about him, I don't think that the Pac-12, it certainly is some kind of razor improvement in situation, but also I don't even think it's like a parallel move, a horizontal move, a move that lateral move. Like I don't think that it's just like an equal opportunity that potentially could get better. Like Memphis is trying to get to a better place.
But go back to what Ed Scott said at that press conference. The original, not even the interview we did, not the one on 92.9, the game in Memphis that we played parts of. Listen to Dr. Ed Scott talk about the Pac-12 offer at this press event.
If y'all haven't seen the latest reports of what's going on between the Mountain West and the Pac-6, 7 right now, this is a fluid situation, right? So that's the other thing. When we talk about the decision that was made by the University of Memphis to not join the PAC, as I like to call them right now at this time, that was not a binary decision. That was not a no, we're not ever going anywhere. That was based on the offer that was presented in front of us, that we're not taking that offer because we don't think less of ourselves. And I came here for a reason. You heard me in the press conference. You've heard me in any interview I've done. I'm bullish on Memphis's future. And so I think sometimes we get enamored by the new and we want to take a bad deal. And that deal was not a good deal for the University of Memphis. It certainly wasn't a good deal for our athletic department. And most importantly, it was a really, really bad deal for our Olympic sports.
Pretty unequivocal. And then you find out that the conference athletic directors unanimously approved a new revenue distribution deal today. That, to me, that does not look good for all the jackwagons out there saying, oh, Memphis is absolutely, or does it mean that Memphis is doing something and there's no chance? No, it doesn't. Could Memphis still end up in the Pac-12? Sure. But why would you make this deal if you were leaving? I just can't figure out. And it's unanimous.
Yeah.
I just can't figure out what it is that the Pac-12 has for a hammer on UNLV,
Anybody.
Tulane, Memphis. Like, that I can't figure out. So
yeah, and I also think that what we can't figure out is with all due respect, again, I'm with you. I'm confident they'll get a media rights deal, but I gotta say I'm not like super over the moon confident that the Pac-12 is somehow going to expand its horizons to 10 teams and is going to fully realize just a clean cut rebuild over the next 5 years. I look across college football and college athletics. And I don't know, like, where you go, because it was really easy to, at one point, to be like, hey, well, Memphis, Tulane, like several of these other schools, like, all right, cool. They're going to jump in the Pac-12 because, the Pac-12's got, has got this big opportunity and a new media rights deal come in. And then that all kind of faded. And then Dr. Scott started to kind of set the record straight as far as Memphis was concerned. And now the ADs and the American have, in my opinion, followed suit on that through their actions. Unanimously have followed suit on that. So my point here is, once again, I'm not saying the Pac-12 sucks. I'm not saying that the Pac-12 is some horrible conference. What I am saying, though, is that they're in a position where there is not just opportunity, falling off trees. You don't have expansion opportunity right now. In my opinion, while yes, there are some opportunities in the media rights realm to get something done, and yes, I do think eventually they'll get something done, I don't think that the media rights space is just loaded with opportunity and people are like, just fawning over the Pac-12. I think that they're still having to figure out, like, what is the best setup? How should we be going about this? Because schools like Memphis are not coming to our conference, which means we're not taking that value and adding it to the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it's difficult.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's get your comments in here. Chewy says, good afternoon. Another great day of MLB games. Yes.
Yeah, Chewy.
Welcome to the Nightmare. Good afternoon. Let's have a great Wednesday show indeed. Corey Hamill. Corey's back.
Hey, Corey.
Stay safe, everyone, in tornado warnings today. Yeah, my friends in the Midwest.
Dude, tornadoes are just savage, bro.
Chewy, I don't have Venmo, but can I donate via YouTube? Certainly you can. Our overwhelming preference is with this thing with the advocates, and if you're just tuning in, advocates donations on Venmo. We are working with our great partners at the Advocates, the best injury attorneys in the business, to raise money to fight childhood hunger in our communities. 1 in 6 kids in this country are hungry today. They don't know where their next meal's coming from. The advocates are partnered with the Murray Children's Pantry. They are going to be putting 100% of your donations into providing food, providing meals for families and kids. And that's what this whole thing's about. We are giving away a $50 Amazon gift card today on this show to the best memo section on Venmo right here, Advocates Donations. If you don't have Venmo, yes, you can donate through the tip jar. Yes, you can do that. Our overwhelming preference is you use Venmo. But Chewy, totally get it. Not everybody can figure out computers and technology and stuff.
Yeah, such as in like,
via social media.
Maury Alvarez says, I was the first and the second one in. Yes, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jakey, two holy shakes needs to get you a daughter already. Okay.
Maury was in yesterday. Clear lead.
Maury was in yesterday.
Clear leader.
The day you have a child on this show is going to be...
One day, should I just roll up, one day with just, a little burrito sitting right here, and do the show?
I already have a little burrito sitting right here.
Yeah,
all right, Maury Alvarez.
Yeah.
The only way the Pac-12 is a step up is if the is in the Pac-12's mind. Well, you might be right about that. Jay Brandon says, hit the like button. Yes, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button. Hey, if you're one of the 900 people watching the show right now, if you are on Twitter, X. Facebook, Spotify, LinkedIn today. We are live on LinkedIn today. Hello. Facebook, make sure you come over to YouTube. Just Google search The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. First thing that will come up is our YouTube channel. Come on over, subscribe, and hit the like button. We appreciate that. Kenneth Maynor, hello. If I'm in Memphis, I would rather travel to ECU than San Diego State.
No doubt.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And if you look at, I think USF is the best example, right? You're in Tampa, and you're going from Tampa, again, to Corvallis or to Spokane. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And that doesn't even include San Diego State. That doesn't even include Fresno. Like, you look at where Alabama, Birmingham, clearly in Birmingham, Alabama, Greenville, North Carolina, Boca Raton, Florida, for Florida Atlantic. Like, what sense does it make for USF to go to Spokane and Corvallis when they can go to Boca, North Carolina, Alabama, Charlotte, Denton, Texas, Houston? Even up to Pennsylvania is not a difficult trip from Tampa. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then if you're Memphis, I think it makes even less sense. So I don't know what the answer to that question is. Jacob says 100%, not to mention how quick teams like Washington State and Oregon State will bounce once the opportunity comes up. Well, but what does that look like? I don't think it's a matter of bouncing with an opportunity. If you're the Pac-12, you're reforming, you're a G5. That's who you are. That's who you're going to be. There isn't I don't see a clear path where Oregon State and Washington State can bump up to be a power conference again. If you're the Big 12, are you inviting Washington State and Oregon State? I don't know. Honestly, there has not been conversations around that for over a year now. So I don't know what the answer of, are they going to bounce at their first opportunity? What would that opportunity be? That's what I'm not clear on. A Super League, and we're going to talk about that in a minute because today was a crazy day of comments, but a Super League, I don't know that Oregon State and Washington State can afford to compete in a Super League. If that's $500 million at a minimum, I don't know that they can afford to compete in that.
Good luck.
That's exactly my point, right? I don't know. Does Memphis have the private dollars? Does their relationship with FedEx, or does that pay for? Who knows? You gotta know. What did Ed Scott say? He's not in the business of what ifs. Does Memphis play the what if game on a Super League? Probably not.
I don't live in a what if scenario.
You don't, and nor should you. So can we play the what if scenario of, well, what if Washington State and Oregon? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You're going to look at the deal that's presented to you, and you're going to make a determination on how that fits for you, your university, your athletes, the whole picture. That's what you're going to base your decision on. Not, and I'm sure maybe part of the calculus is, are Oregon State and Washington State looking for a ripcord? But how would you even prove that they're looking for the next?
Right.
I just don't think it's very much of the thought process, in my mind anyway. Jam on my jelly roll. It has been far too long, sir. Far too long. Would Memphis be a good fit for the Big 12? I think Memphis is a good fit in any conference. I think the city of Memphis is a very interesting dynamic. You have a community that I think very much is attached to the university. But you look at Memphis by the numbers, and Memphis has an enrollment of 21,458 with a $340 million endowment. That's not power numbers. That's not power numbers. That is not the biggest in the AAC. It's not even close. Or excuse me, 21,458 is their enrollment. You look at Florida Atlantic, East Carolina. You look at Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, Carolina, Charlotte, certainly North Texas, South Florida, Temple, University of Texas, San Antonio even. They all have larger enrollments.
Yeah.
Memphis is not the biggest footprint in the conference. But it's not how big you are, it's how mighty you are, in my opinion. And I think what you have to evaluate is, what's the commitment to winning every single snap and dribble of the basketball? Because that's what makes every other sport possible, in my opinion. Stick and ball sports, soccer, you name it. Women's sports, men's sports, chess club. That's what makes it all possible. And I think if you heard Ed Scott on this show, or if you've ever listened to him speak, I think he's committed to winning every single snap and dribble. I think that university is. They have great local partners on the ground.
Yeah.
That community backs them. They play at FedEx Forum. They have absolute support in that community. Do they have the what's the right way to put it? Are you liquid enough, and do you have the wherewithal long-term to go and join a P4 or a Super League? That's a huge question.
Yeah, I don't know that football-wise they have the fortitude. I think that it makes a lot of sense for them at some point to step up into a P4 at some point. I don't know that we are pretty confident, actually, that wouldn't mean that they're required to be in a Super League, because that's two different things.
Yeah.
Not all athletics are obviously going to be in a Super League. That's a football conversation. So I would not be at all surprised to see Memphis and the Big 12 get together, or, something like that. Anything
But
East.
if you're Memphis, aren't you trying to join like the ACC or? They fit very nicely into the ACC, just from a regional perspective. I think competition-wise, Memphis is very close to the top quarter of that league, right? I mean, if you put Penny in that Memphis program with its backing and community support and all of that into the ACC, that's one of the top teams in that conference.
Yeah.
And that has raised recruiting profile, the ability to attract a better cut of athlete, right? You're having different conversations if you're in the ACC, but would they be a fit in the Big 12? Yeah, I'm sure they would, right? I'm sure they would. If you're Memphis, I think you'd rather go to Houston and Lubbock and Fort Worth than you would to Corvallis, and the money's going to be better. There's no doubt about that,
No
right?
question about it. Yeah, no question about it.
I think Memphis is one of the most underrated programs in the country. And it's why we asked Ed Scott to come on the show. I know we've talked about this in the past. We're talking about Memphis today because that's the name that people keep bringing up as going to the Pac-12. And I'll just recount what Ed Scott said on the show. I know we don't have the bite in the system right now, but Ed Scott straight up said on the show, we have not had conversations with the Pac-12 since the original offer. I don't know how. Then you turn around all of a sudden and you start moving. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And once again, I just don't think the Pac-12 has something that most universities are just fawning over right now.
I would agree.
I don't think that it's it's no disrespect, but I just don't think that right now the offering from the Pac-12 is good enough to get support or interest from teams that are not in the Mountain region. Like, with all due respect, I even think, for some schools, like I think if you're in Texas and you're looking at the Pac-12 situation, I think you have to definitely evaluate it and make sure you're good with it, because you're not making substantially more or anything, right? I mean, you still have to look at your budget and everything. So
you do.
So I think that it's just, look, I think that I'm growing tired of having to answer the question of, are Eastern time zone teams considering the Pac-12? They're not. They're not. There's no way you can. It does not make sense, man.
Bro.
What?
We got to talk about this Chewy Gonzalez thing.
Oh, God.
So Chewy is unable to donate on Venmo. So he's chosen to donate through YouTube. First of all, it's $100.
Thank you. Thank you.